How did you get to New York City?
Wow, how did I get to New York? It's crazy. So I'm from Philly originally. Never would imagine being here. Never imagined being here. And even when I started stand-up in Philly, and it was like I did everything I could do at that point, where it was like I was hosting at my local comedy club, and I was just trying to figure out how can I take my career to that next level. So I knew, like, for comedy, either New York or LA. This was like really before the boom of the internet. So even though with me being young and the internet being around, like, you know, now you could, every time you get on Instagram, you might see a new stand-up clip.
Yeah.
But this was around the time that Instagram was really just for pictures.
Different time.
Yeah. So it was like I just wanted to take my career to that next level and get stronger on stage. So I knew New York would be it. So I got out here in 2015, in September 2015. Yeah.
Were you always into comedy? Did you know this is what you wanted to do? How did that happen?
Not at all. So I say in high school and even like my freshman year of college, I was always the funny, opinionated one with my friends, like always joking. But I never thought I could actually turn this into a craft. So freshman year, second semester, my school, they needed a host for the talent show because the previous host had graduated. So all my friends were like, yo, I think you should do it, and kept trying to talk me into it. And I'm like, look, I'm funny with y'all. I can't do this on stage. But then they just kept it up. So eventually I said, let me just try it. So I went on stage, nothing prepared, which would now, I guess it was more so me doing crowd work. So I just went on stage just riffing for the whole show. But it felt great. Like in hindsight, I know like I wasn't saying anything of any substance, but it felt good being on stage. So after that, I just started going to open mics around the city. But originally, I was going to school to be an accountant.
Really?
Yeah. I was an accounting major.
Wow.
Yeah, I went to St. Joe's University in Philly as an accounting major. And then once I started doing stand-up, doing the open mics in Philly, grades just instantly started slipping. Because at that point, it was like, I'm doing these shows and everybody is telling me how good I am. I don't care about this quiz I have tomorrow. So after that, my grades were just slipping. But then like I pulled up my grades and was able to graduate on time. But I was so deep into comedy throughout those years, I didn't do any extracurricular activities. I wasn't doing any internships or just any work towards what I was like getting my degree in. So it was like at that point I was like I'm all in with comedy. So yeah.
So you must have been good with numbers.
Yeah. No, I love numbers. I love numbers. Even like growing up, I don't know, have you ever heard of this game 24?
One of my favorite games growing up. Challenge 24?
Yeah, with you had the 4 numbers.
I literally traveled to do this. I won for my middle school.
Same.
And went to regionals for
That's amazing.
this game. I was obsessed with Challenge 24.
Same.
In Pennsylvania. Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, I did that for like all of the POW centers in Philly. So yeah, I used to play those. I used to participate in those competitions all the time. Yeah. Like I literally still have the 24 app on my phone.
I didn't know there was one.
Yeah, and I just play that while I'm bored. Like, so a lot of times when I'm at shows, people might think I'm in my phone going over notes. And it's like, no, I already know what I'm gonna say. I'm just keeping up with 24.
Damn.
Yeah.
So the talent show, that was in college. So you said sophomore year of college?
No, freshman year. Second semester of freshman year. So yeah, that was what year was that? Actually, this February just made 15 years.
Damn.
Yeah.
Had you been at all excited about a career in accounting? It was such a different world than what the world you're in now.
I was really excited about doing accounting because so when I was in high school, I say this was sophomore. Well, my junior and senior year of high school. This is when we started getting into like picking your electives outside of just like the regular math and stuff. So one of the electives they actually had, one of the teachers made because I guess he used to be a bookkeeper and an accountant. Outside of like just being a teacher, he started an accounting course. And this was like my favorite class. So me and one of my best friends, we actually we used to talk about this all the time about us growing up to being accountants. And so we actually went to the same college together. And she actually stuck it out. Like she's like a accountant now. But that was like my main goal. But when I look back on it, I think I wanted to do it just because I knew I'm good with numbers, and that accountants make good money. But when I started doing the actual work, I'm like, I'm gonna hate this. I'm gonna hate being in the office all day, and even like the people that I know that are accountants, I know how busy it gets for them during tax season. Like so, I know I would have hated it. Yeah.
I think it's got to be rare to have someone who has a very creative side also go into account. They almost seem like diametrically opposed to one another.
Right. Yeah. So once I started doing this, I was actually going to switch to communications, but switching that big of a jump in like the schools, I probably would have graduated a year or two behind. So I decided to stay in the business field and just switch to marketing. Because I could somewhat use marketing at least.
It sounds like you got pretty good feedback right away when you switched to doing the emceeing, and then what did you have that sense too that you could do this? I don't know. There's a talent to this that you had a bit of a knack for it.
Instantly when I started, like every show I was always having the best sets. Like I started off out the gate so strong, but I think what it was. I was writing this one, like I was in my peak of writing. Like I was writing every day, super excited to get on stage and try out new stuff. And then I also like I had no fear of I had no fear because I came in, my first show was performing for my friends. So that definitely gave me that early confidence boost where it was like, okay, I know exactly what I got to do. I just got to keep this up. And then, so I say my first 9 months of comedy, I didn't have a bad show. And then I was also, I think, but part of it too might have been because I was so young. I was 18. So I think I might have had that adorable factor on my side.
Yeah.
So yeah, my first 9 months, every show went great. And then I had like my first bomb. Then like I had my first bomb. This was like in front of a young crowd, but it wasn't really set up for comedy. It wasn't conducive for comedy. It was like more of a variety show with rappers and everything, which I later realized like comedy and rap just doesn't mix. It has to be one or the other. So I had a bad show. But from that bad show, I couldn't wait to get on stage again. So that let me know that I really do love this.
You love this thing.
Yeah.
Tell me about the bad show. What happened?
It was a guy that I went to high school with. He was kind of like a party promoter in Philly. And he wanted to do some type of variety show, which he told me, he was like, I have this idea of doing a mix show, kind of like the Apollo, where we had performers, or just all different types, where we might have some rappers, some comedians, and they got like a social media host. So it was a young crowd, but because he's a party promoter, he doesn't realize like when it comes to art like stand-up or poetry, it's better if people are seated. Rap shows, people are standing, but with comedy, people need to be relaxed. So right there, when I saw it was no chairs, I knew,
it's a problem.
Right, yeah. So, and then I went on like really late in the night. It was just, excuse me. The crowd, they just didn't care. Especially at that time of night, it was like, we don't want to hear jokes.
Yeah. Tough environment.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you had most people when they start a craft like this are extremely nervous. You didn't have that, it seems like.
No.
How do you explain that?
Honestly, I think I've always been a comedy fan my whole life. So I've always been a comedy fan. I say more so, I wasn't nervous. The only time I was nervous was the day before I hosted the talent show. I remember that day vividly. The day before the talent show, everybody is practicing their routines. Like, they have the singers doing what they're going to do, or the poets reciting what poems they're going to say. And then they asked me, they said, all right, since you're going to host this, tell us a joke. And I just froze up. At that point, I had no joke. I was like, look, just let me come out here and I'm going to be ready when the time comes. And I ended up managing to push myself through that. But yeah, I honestly I still do. I do get nervous. I still do. I will say this, that, not to make it sound like I don't get nervous. I do get nervous, but it's a good nervous. I'm nervous, more so excited.
That's a great way to put it.
I like the feeling of the crowd not knowing what I'm about to do.
Yeah.
Because I always especially now, I always have a set prepared that I know I could go to. So
tell me about the Philly comedy scene. So you enter this world. What's I don't know anything about it. What's
the Philly comedy scene is great. The Philly comedy scene it's amazing because and it kind of spoiled. I didn't realize until now how good I had it back then. Because I came up with so many good comedians that a good amount are here now in New York and a good amount are also in Austin. But the Philly scene was great because our open mics are shows, whereas New York open mics are terrible.
Yeah.
Because the New York open mics are mostly around a happy hour time, 5 to 7.
Yeah.
When everybody's getting off of work. So you're typically performing for other comedians. Whereas because the people that want to go to an actual good comedy show, they're not going to go to the local open mics. They're going to pay money to go to the good comedy clubs. So whereas in Philly, our open mics, and that's the thing, in New York, there's so much to do. So it's why would I waste time to go to an open mic? I'm gonna either go to a great comedy show, or you also competing with the Broadway shows, all the different concerts, the Blue Note. It's so much here. Whereas in Philly, that open mic might be the one thing to do for the night in the whole city. So our open mics were typically always packed. Always packed. A Thursday open mic that I used to do would run from sign-ups might start at 8, and that open mic will run until 1 in the morning, and still have a crowd the whole night. So yeah, the open mic scene definitely spoiled me, but I had to break out of that because performing in my city, and this isn't just Philly, it's just any city. When you're performing in your hometown, only teaches you how to talk to people from their hometown. So performing from Philly, I was only learning how to make people laugh from Philly, South Jersey, and Delaware. Right? So I could get away with local jokes.
Yeah.
Whereas when I came here and I'm performing in Manhattan, performing in Times Square, I'm performing from tourists from all over the world. I got to make a family from France laugh at the same jokes for somebody from South Africa. So being here has definitely made me more universal and just learn how to communicate better with and bring people into my world.
Did you have a sense pretty quickly when you got into the scene in Philly that this was what you wanted to do? And how did you survive during that time, just financially?
So financially, luckily that I was still in college.
Yeah.
So my whole time in comedy, being in Philly, my first few years I was still in school, and then I stayed for 1 year after I graduated.
Okay.
And that's when the only job that I've ever worked, the only jobs that I've worked have been working with kids. Working in different schools as a paraprofessional. So I work one-to-one with kids with intellectual disabilities or behavior challenges. So I did that at a high school in Philly to save up money to be able to move up here. So yeah, then The open mic scene, but yeah, the open mic scenes there, it was, that grind was so much fun because I lived on I lived on campus my freshman year, but then after that I just commuted because I knew I'm only coming here for class anyway. After this, I want to go straight back to the shows.
So you knew this was kind of what you wanted to do pretty quickly, it sounds like.
Yeah.
When did you know, or how did you know it was time to move? It was time to come here?
I knew I was watching all my other friends move. I was watching and I hit my peak of, okay, I'm having the best set on these shows every night, but I'm not growing. I'm not growing. So yeah, it was like, and at my local comedy club, I wanted to get bigger spots, but I knew they were always going to look at me as just this host. I was never going to be able to move up to that feature spot or even a headliner.
Yeah.
And there was no real opportunity coming to the city as far as like the major TV auditions. No managers were coming to see us. No, I couldn't perform with any major comedians. Like, yeah, you would have your headliners come to town, but the headliners weren't watching the open micer sets or anything like that. So whereas coming out here, I performed with the people I grew up watching. Like I'm getting to see a Chappelle or a Chris Rock or a Dave Attell. Like I'm performing with so much talent that I wouldn't have been able to if I would have just stayed there.
Yeah. How, when you got here, did you have some work already lined up for you? How did you begin to get some traction or try to get some traction here?
Well, I kind of had some things lined up. So I will say I was fortunate enough to where I had did a contest in Philly in 2015. And this was one of the things, this was the summer of 2015. I knew I planned on moving to New York after the end of the summer. So I really wanted to win this competition. It was called like Philly Funniest. So basically about 300 comedians in the city, about 250, 300 comedians would enter this contest. And the winner would get about $1,000 and would start working the club more. So I knew I wanted to win this contest, and it came down to the final six of us. But this is the only time this ever happened at this club. They added back a comedian that got eliminated in our semifinals round. And he was one of their local hosts, right? And in this was the only... I was worried about two comedians at the time that might be able to take me out. One was Shane Gillis, and it was another one of my friends, but Shane was also in my semifinals round. So when I watched his set, and the other guy, this comedian Daryl Charles, I watched them. I was like, oh, I definitely got this. Like, I felt great. So then it came down to the finals. I have a great set. They announcing the winners. Third place, Shane. I came in second place. First place, the comedian they added back.
Oof.
And like that hurt so, like I was so angry because I'm like, y'all took this competition from me. But one of the judges from that night was actually a comedy club owner out here. And he was like, don't worry about this competition. I don't know what happened. I had you first.
Wow.
So when I moved here, he had started giving me spots. Like he was giving me stage time. So I had one club that I could work. And then it was like this really terrible club in Times Square. It's closed now. It was this club.
Caroline's?
No.
Okay.
Not Caroline. It was around the corner from Caroline's. It was a club called LOL. Okay. LOL Comedy. Terrible club. And it was like, it would be the people barking in Times Square, but that would have the sign saying Comedy Central Showcase, or they would lie to people saying like, because people are so gullible. Yeah, they just don't know any better. They're out of town people, the bright lights. So they would tell these people, oh, we have Tina Fey's going to be performing, or we have Seinfeld tonight. And they would show up at the shows and they would see open micers like me. So because they were a lot of people so much, so it was a terribly ran club, but I will say it was the perfect spot for a new comedian to the city because they would just throw anybody on the stage. So I was able to get a lot of stage time there too. So that one club owner seeing me in Philly, that terrible club, those were the main two ways I was able to break into the scene.
And when you got here, did you have your sights already set on where you wanted your career to go? Did you have a sense of what you were trying to accomplish?
I knew what I was trying to accomplish as far as, all right, I want to get on TV and I want to act and I want to get on the road more and get more stage time, but I really didn't know how to go about it. I just knew, and I really feel bad for comedians now because at least at that time, it was kind of a straight path of this is what you need to do. So it was more so just hanging out and showing your face. And then when you get the stage time, show that you could be funny, show that you could deliver. Whereas now with the internet, it's the Wild West. Yeah. So, yeah, but at that point, yeah, I had a sense of what I needed to do. It was more so just showing my face and being around.
So you had some work seemingly already lined up for yourself. Did you need to also do what you need to do to survive? This is a very expensive place.
Yeah.
So how did you do that?
Yeah, so moving here, I did the same job that I did in Philly. I just found a different school that I could work at. So for the first 2 months, and that was a tough challenge. So my friend actually worked at this school in Manhattan, and it was a school for autistic children, and he told me they were hiring. So I applied, got an interview, and they hired me, and they told me, they called me one day, they said they had 2 campuses. They had a Manhattan campus and a Westchester campus. But I'm still living in Philly at the time, and I'm searching for apartments out here. But you know, the apartment search, it could take forever to get approved.
Yeah.
So I was searching for apartments, and but the school, they called me saying I needed to come to the Westchester campus to fill out paperwork. Right? So I drive up from Philly to Westchester to fill out the paperwork, and they told me they were like, you're starting tomorrow. Right? But at this time, I still don't have I saw the apartment in Brooklyn, but it wasn't secured yet. So I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. So I drove back home to Philly, and I had to basically prepare myself to start this job in Manhattan. So for that first week before I got my apartment, I was taking a megabus. I would catch a 3:30.
Wow. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, I would catch a 3:30 a.m. megabus that would get me to New York about 5:30, 6 o'clock, and I would just wait in the Starbucks for a little bit until the school would open. And then when the school would let out at 3, I would hurry up and rush to catch a 3:45 bus back to Philly. And yeah, I did that for a good week. And then I say the following week, I got approved for my apartment. And that's when I moved in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bet that helped.
Yeah. Yeah. So but I lasted at that school for maybe 2 months.
Okay.
It was just it was such an unhealthy environment. And then after that, I was able to get a job at a school in Brooklyn in Crown Heights, and I worked there for a little bit. So I kind of just bounced around working at schools out here.
I know you're in I think a variety of clubs now in New York, including the Comedy Cellar.
Right, yeah.
How did those opportunities come about? How did you make that real?
Okay, so the Comedy Cellar, that's a crazy story within itself because I got past there super fast. So, and I'll backtrack a little bit. When I was in Philly, there's comedy club there, Helium Comedy Club was the one comedy club in the city. And on the weekends, I would sit around, I would get to shows early so I could try to ask the headliner, could I get a guest spot? Which would be 5 minutes up front to start the show. So there's one comedian, he goes by Spank Horton. Spank, he's one of Kevin Hart's openers, right? So I asked Spank, I was like, hey, could I do a guest spot on the shows? He was like, I don't know, I'll see how things go. And I was like, all right, that's no problem. I was like, I'm going to still come hang out just to see. So I got there early, for the Thursday show, and I came every show that weekend. I was there from Thursday to Saturday, and he ended up throwing me on all 5 shows.
Damn.
Right, and I had great sets, and then like we just stayed in touch. So then this was in 2014. He let me do those spots. Then fast forward to now was I say about March 2016, living in New York, working in Brooklyn. Spank randomly hit me up saying, "Hey, send me one of your tapes. I want to see if I could submit you for some TV thing." Right? So I sent them a 5-minute set, not knowing what it would be. A week later, a producer from Comedy Central hit me up. They give me a call saying, "Hey, Anthony, we putting together a list of comedians for a Kevin Hart show. We would love to have you on it." Right? So, but it wasn't like set in stone. Like they told me that, they gave me that call, but I'm like, all right, nothing is final until it actually happens.
Yeah.
And then they gave me another call like about 2 weeks later saying like, yeah, it's confirmed. You're definitely going to be on the show. We need you to send the script of like the set that you're going to do. So that went, the taping went amazing. Ended up having a great set. My first time meeting Kevin Hart. So then that show airs 2016. But it's like I'm still like an unknown comedian. So I have a TV credit, but still unknown relatively, and still have to pay bills. So I'm still working at the school. Fast forward to 2017. I hear Kevin Hart's in town. So I know when all the big comedians are in town, they usually go hang out at the Comedy Cellar. So I'm like, so I was actually, it's funny, I was supposed to meet up with my girl to get something to eat. and I told her, I was like, let's go get some wings at the Cellar. And I said that not trying to like tell her my real intentions was to go meet up with Kevin Hart. So I see him near in an olive tree. Because have you ever been to the olive tree?
Okay. Yeah.
So like, you know, it's a relatively small restaurant above the showroom. So I'm standing by, we're sitting at the front table, so if he walks out, he has to see me. Right?
Smart.
Right? And I see he has all these big guys around him. So I'm thinking this his security, and I look over and it's actually LeBron. Right? He had LeBron, Tristan Thompson, and a few other Cavs.
The Cavs. Yeah.
And the Cavs with him.
There's some big dudes.
In the olive tree. And because I think they were playing the Knicks the next day. And that's also how I really realized like how famous he is. For him to just have like the Cavs watching him work out just new material the night before a game. So I'm standing by the door. He gets up to walk a few of them out. And then I called him. I was like, "Hey, Kev." And then he looked over and he saw it was me and gave me a hug. He was like, "Yo, how you been?" He was like, "Look, I'm about to go downstairs and do another set. But when I come off stage, I'm going to introduce you to everybody."
Wow.
And that's like literally how I got in the Comedy Cellar. And even now, I'm 33, and I'm usually one of the youngest comics on the lineup.
Yeah.
He got me in there, I was 24. So it was such a big jump to where like I was performing at this terrible club in Times Square that was lying to people. To now I'm performing it at the best club. And when I got in the Cellar, the lineups were just so tough back then. Like, I mean, you know, the lineups are still pretty good now, but I just feel like at that time was just like that peak was just different. Where it was like I'm on the lineups with Roy Wood Jr., Ronnie Chang. This was before like all of those guys did the White House dinners.
Yeah.
It was just I had to step it up a lot.
Yeah. A bunch of killers in there. So he goes up on stage and literally calls you up to do a set?
No. So what he did was at that point he just like after he got off stage, he like personally introduced me to all of the managers.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
and that's how I ended up getting the audition.
Basically vouching for you.
Yeah, he vouched for me. And I think I might be the only comic he's vouched for, which is like crazy to think about. But I did go a good while where they weren't booking me because I was, at the time, I was being inconsistent. I would have nights where I would kill and have great sets, but then it would be moments where I was just getting by. I was just like almost going through the motions. And I felt like it was a few things. It was one, I probably wasn't ready for it at the time because I was still learning how to perform out here and have more universal and stronger material. And then also I was going through the motions as far as Kevin Hart got me in here. I'm fine. Whereas like they don't care about that. Yeah. It's like once you on stage, somebody could get you in here, but once you on stage,
it's on you.
You by yourself. It's like, and because I've seen that with plenty famous comedians that go on stage thinking, oh, the crowd, they already know who I am. And it's like, yeah, they might get excited for that first minute or two, but and it's the one thing I love about the stage. Nothing matters but so funny. True. Yeah. It's like, I don't care what you did before. Make me laugh now. So I went a good while where I wasn't getting booked. And then this was 2021, I say. Kevin Hart was in town. He was promoting this Netflix series he had did with Wesley Snipes. And he asked me how I've been. And he was like, you been getting on stage? And I told him I wasn't. And I told him, I was like, I have the funny. It's just like a matter of getting the opportunity. Because now at this time, this was like after the pandemic where I done went from doing the Zoom shows for colleges and performing outside in the park. So now I'm at the point where it's like, after all those conditions, I'm ready for anything on stage. So he was like, all right, well, and he asked the manager, he was like, give Ant 10 minutes and I'm going to go on stage after him. So I went up, had a amazing set, like, and he was like, y'all see he could kills, like, y'all should really like give him a chance. So things been kind of like better since then.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is he known as that kind of guy, like that generous and helpful, or is it really like you said? He's only done this once. It sounds like.
I think when it comes to the Cellar, I think I might be the only person he's vouched for, but I think he pretty is like I think he is a genuine, like he's pretty genuine and generous when it comes to helping people. Yeah.
So after you kill for those 10 minutes, you said earlier that he introduced you to the managers, which I assume got you a foot in the door to then audition. Is that what happened?
Yeah.
And so my understanding is when that happens at the Comedy Cellar, you get a slot to perform live. Is that what happened with you?
So the lineups change every week. So after that, I started performing on lineups, but it's so many comedians you performing with, and spots vary based on your level of fame, whether like your level of killing. Your spots vary based on who's in town. So, because even like no matter who you are, and that's the one thing that I love about that club, where even the famous people, they still have to put in their schedule and say, hey, look, I'm gonna be in town on these days, or I want to get up on these days. So it depends. Where on one week, if a lot of people are out of town during a festival, you might, and you're relatively unknown, you might end up getting a lot of spots that week because everybody might be out of town. But on a week where Ray Romano wants to get up, Neil Brennan, Chappelle, when they're all in town, you might be lucky to get 1 or 2 spots on the show. So it really just depends.
So you kill those 10 minutes in 2021, I think you said?
Yeah.
What happens after that? Are you getting booked a little bit more at the Comedy Cellar and other places? Like how?
So I started getting booked at the Comedy Cellar a lot more. And then from that, it was kind of the trickle down effect of, okay, people see me on a schedule at the Cellar. So a lot of people around the city are in Brooklyn and Queens, they want to ask me to do their shows because now it kind of validates them by saying,
approval.
Yeah, they could say this show has a Cellar comic on it who's been on TV before. So that happened. But outside of working there, the other club I was working more, and I'm like sad it closed. It was this club in Brooklyn, Old Man Hustle.
Yeah.
And that was a great spot because it was at the Cellar, I have to kill every show. And that is the goal. I do want to kill every show, but it's also a different kind of pressure. Whereas like the other spots, like the spots in Brooklyn, I could kind of breathe a little bit. Yeah, I could relax. Whereas like I could take some chances on a joke that I think is funny, but if it doesn't hit, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about losing my position here.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
What do you like to talk about? I'd be curious to learn what over the years, if there are major themes that you like to hit on when you're up on stage.
I like to talk about really whatever I'm dealing with at the time. So my material has changed a lot from like when I first started. It was more so about me being in college, the things I was experiencing, then to where now I'm talking about my relationship. I'm talking about having a dog or my past experience working in schools, or if I see something like in the news, if I see something that happened in the news or online that caught my eye. But I try to keep it to my life, because the topics, that's something that other people could take, or they might not even take it from you, but they might have the same idea or thought on that same topic. So if it's politics, if it's something with Trump, or just something that's happening every day, I'm sure somebody else has that same idea. Whereas if I talk about me, nobody else has my life.
Yeah.
And that's something nobody else could step on that same joke.
You find that the material that ends up coming out on stage happens as you're going on walks? Do you sit down for a certain period of time every day and unload? How do you get the material out?
It's a mix. Like sometimes with jokes, because every joke, no matter when you think of a joke, it's really, you don't know if it's funny until you try it or not.
Yeah. So
I've had jokes where it might have come to me the first time I did it, but then I've had jokes where it might have sat in my phone for a good 5 or 6 years to where I finally found out like, oh, this is how I need to say it. So I do try to sit down and write a good amount. When it comes to writing, for me, I prefer to write in the middle of the night. I don't know, it's something about
late.
Yeah, it's something about being up late. That's when like my best thoughts come to me. Like it's hard for me to sit down and write during the day. I guess because during the day I have so many distractions. Like my phone going off. I know other people are awake that I could just hit up. So I think that might have something to do with it. Whereas like in the middle of the night, it's just me. It's just me with my pen. And I'm old fashioned in the sense of, I know people like to write in their phone or write on their laptop. I need a good old black and white composition book.
Yeah. With some Challenge 24 nearby. Do you I'd love to hear your thoughts, if you have thought about this, about the role of the comedian in society. I mean, to me, there's something unique about an individual going up with a microphone in front of strangers and just sharing whatever the fuck is on their mind.
I think we have a great responsibility because we're the few people that are able to get past that fear and actually speak in public. So just being a public speaker, I do think you have some sort of responsibility to use that with great intention. And that's what's like kind of disappointing, where we've seen in the past few years with like how the comics that have turned like podcasters are taking this like more political stance, and a lot of them are taking stances that they don't even believe in for the sake of just grifting, because they know how gullible the average person is to just believe anything that a person with a microphone says. I see that with a lot of, and I get it is lucrative, but at some point it's like, how much money do you really need?
Yeah.
And is that how you want to make your money? So I do think we have a great responsibility when it comes to speaking.
I do think the fearlessness is probably a part of almost all of the best comics in the world.
Yeah.
How do you explain why certain people have that ability? It's not normal to be able to be that unfiltered and uncensored and raw. I don't know if you have seen a pattern here, but what do you notice in the people who seem to be able to do that? How are they able to get past that, the fear?
How are they able to get past that? I think I'm noticing two things where it's either people that have nothing, like people that come from nothing.
Yeah.
People that might
That's such a good point.
Yeah, I think it's either people that
what do they have to lose?
Right, yeah. So you have that, whether you have to lose, or on the other spectrum, what I'm seeing now, it's a trend of rich kids doing comedy. It's a trend of like people that are like coming from money, and not just coming from like good families. I mean, it's people coming from wealth.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's blowing my mind how many comics that I'm finding out are coming from like just a different level of wealth to where they also have
nothing to lose.
Yeah. They're not worried about losing anything at all. So I think it's more so the people that come from those ends of the spectrum. Yeah.
Are there, I would imagine your answer is probably yes, but I'm assuming your favorite comedians have that fearlessness.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Who are, I don't know if any names come to mind, but who are the ones you see and you're like, God damn, they are fearless.
Instantly Chappelle. Instantly Chappelle. I will say sometimes in the past few years, I think it's kind of like going too far. Like he's kind of like, as far as he's used this, it's like we know you're fearless. So why are you still doing certain things? Like him just like going over the top with the trans stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, we get you're not scared to do it. So I will say that. But I'll never forget, this was one night at the Cellar. This was around the time where he was starting to pop back out with the special. So I think this was like he was preparing to drop his first Netflix special. And I remember he was doing this joke about the woman that lied on Emmett Till and said that he whistled at her. He was doing this joke about that woman. And basically, what did he say? Like the crowd was just getting like really uncomfortable. And he was just like, I know some of y'all don't want to hear this. He was like, but I've lost more money than you could think about making. And that was just like so powerful to me because the thing, like, this is a guy that walked away from $50 million at one time. So it's like when you're willing to walk away from that kind of money, it's a different type of it's just a different type of fearlessness where it's like, I don't care at all because I'd rather get my message across how I want to, and you can't place any value on that. So yeah, he's one of the people who I definitely look up to when it comes to being fearless. I even say Louis. He's another one, and that might be this might be controversial too. But Louis, his fearlessness of being willing to try any joke, no matter how dark or twisted it might be, and even him being willing to like pop back out and come back after his whole situation. Him being willing to like step on stage and knowing that he's going to have to address it, and knowing how everybody is looking at him. So I say those two, Louis, Chappelle, and who else? It's a lot of people. It's a good amount. Of course, Carlin. Yeah, Carlin.
I don't know if there's any, and maybe they have the fearlessness quality too. But for people that don't live here, they know the names Chappelle and Louis C.K. and Carlin and Chris Rock,
right?
But they don't know, they're not steeped in the New York community like you are in the comedy scene. Other comedians that, if somebody's visiting here and they see a name on the lineup, you're just like, you really need to go see this person.
Yeah. I say Sam Morril. I love Sam Morril.
Me too.
Derrick Gaines. Derrick Gaines and Monroe Martin. Derrick Gaines and Monroe Martin, they're two guys that I came up under in the Philly scene, and they live here. And actually, Monroe is one of the people that he gave me probably the greatest piece of advice ever that I needed as a young comic. Monroe, so he's from Philly, been living here forever, but he was actually booked to headline at my college, and he knew I was a young comic from Philly, knew I went there, so he was like, look, I'll let you do 10 minutes to open the show. And my 10 minutes was okay, but I was speeding through every joke. And then I watched Monroe just go up there, just sit down, just comfortable, and just destroy. Like, he did it so effortlessly. And then he told me, he was like, look, he was like, you're funny, but you're speeding through everything. He was like, the crowd, they're not laughing at times, not because you're not funny, but because they're just listening to you. So just get comfortable with the silence. And once I became comfortable with sitting in the silence and sitting in that pocket, that helped me take my jokes to a whole nother level of like being able to sit in the mood of that joke. So whether I'm telling a story where I'm scared or I'm telling a story where I'm angry, now I know how to like change my mood throughout that. So Derrick Gaines and Monroe Martin, those are definitely two that whenever they're on stage, I try to watch them. And another Philly guy that's been here forever, Keith Robinson. Keith, he's basically every Philly comedian came up under Keith, whether that be a Kevin Hart, a Big J. Okerson, Derrick and Monroe, they both came up under him. But Keith, older guy, he had
a stroke, right?
Yeah, he had 2 strokes.
Okay.
Yeah, he had 2 strokes. And seeing him able to like turn that story, it's a story we've never heard of in comedy before. Yeah. Somebody performing after dealing with a situation like that, and him just being able to like just tell this story of resilience and being able to bounce back and find his voice. Because I remember this was during the pandemic. We did shows in New Jersey at the Stress Factory. We did shows at the Stress Factory during the pandemic. This was like a outside show. And this was like after he had the first stroke. So at this point, his speech was slurred, but he was still walking around at a good pace. And the second stroke really like slowed him down. The second stroke, we didn't think he would be able to perform again, because at that point, you couldn't understand what he was saying at all. Yeah. And that one really slowed him down. But for him to bounce back from that second one, and then he even put out a special. He taped a special after that. So yeah, just hearing his twist on things, you know you're always going to hear something fresh and new, and something that you just never even would have thought. Yeah. From like, because of his perspective. Yeah.
And no pity. In his sets, I've seen him a few times. Yeah. It's like he's not, woe is me. He's still going after shit.
Yeah. Like he said, I was watching him last week, and this joke just had me dying. He was saying how his insurance is so high now. So he was like, he has a choice to make. He was like, do I pay this increase, or do I just have a third stroke?
Yeah. If you had a young comic coming to you right now and asking you for your best piece of advice or a couple pieces, what would you say?
Honestly, and it's tough because I don't even know what I would tell young comedians. Because before, the advice was always just keep working on your material. Your jokes will get strong. Like, let your material get stronger and just stay ready. So the one thing that is universal that I will say I would tell young comedians is that as a young comedian, all you need is a good 5 minutes to get you in the door. A good 5 minute set. You're not, when you're first starting out, you're not going to be getting booked to do a half hour or an hour long on stage. So all you need is 5 to 10 minutes to show that you can handle. You just need 5 to 10 minutes to show that you are actually funny. Yeah. that 5 to 10 minutes is going to open the doors to you getting booked to do 20 minutes and a half hour, and your set of grow as you're getting booked for more times. But when you starting out, just have that 5 to 10 minutes ready. That's all you need, because 5 to 10 minutes, that's what led to me getting my first TV credit. Now, the thing that's changing is that before you would say, hold on to your material and let it get stronger. Don't put your material out there. But now it's like, I see comedians putting out the material as soon as they get a laugh. It's like they just throwing it right out there, and they're building followings to where I know comedians that might have only been in comedy for a few years, but they got 100, 200,000 followers.
Yeah.
Because they just throwing anything out there that gets a laugh. So the game has just changed so much. That's like
different world.
Yeah.
I always like to close by asking guests about how they think about success. You've come a long way from open mics in Philly, and you're now performing at probably the most famous venue in the world for comedy.
Yeah.
You know, if you think about the next few years of your life, how do you think about the word success as it applies to your life and your career? What does that look like?
Success for me is more so a state of peace, of just not worrying, just more stability. So like peace for me is, even now, like things could be better, but it's like, as much as I stress, I'm like, I get to tell jokes for a living. Yeah. So I think that's really like the goal, just being able to do this and be able to like not stress financially. So, because no matter how high you get in comedy, it's always going to be something stressful. Is like, because I know comedians that sell out comedy clubs that are stressed. Like, man, how do I get into theaters? And then theater comedians are like, man, how do I get to arenas?
Yeah.
So no matter what, it's always going to be something to stress about. But I like to have a nice life outside of this. So like for me, which is like walking my dog, trying out new restaurants. So that's really like where I'm at. Like peace for me is being able to, I want to be able to do comedy when I want. That's like the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
Being able to like walk in a club and say, I want to go up when I want to.
It's a great answer.
Yeah.
Dude, thanks so much for doing this.
No, thanks for having me.